Welcome to Cup Chat with me, Jody Misiak. Today we are talking about self-care. Now, I talk about it a lot, and you probably hear this word a lot, but I want to break it down. Simpleness, what's the difference between self-care and self-love? Because I find that a lot of people are using those words interchangeably, and I personally don't agree with that. So grab your coffee, your tea, and let's chat today. So what's the difference between self-care and self-love? Let's get that off, let's, work that, clear that up right away. So for me, self-care is just doing things for you. It's grooming, it's taking time for you for reading, bathing, washing your hair, getting outside in nature if that's what you love to do. There's things, it's putting yourself first. Self-love, and for me, is a more spiritual thing. It's reconnecting with yourself, loving yourself. And that's why I think self-care and self-love get so blended together. But I find that self-love is really needed before you put self-care on top of your to-do list. When you know you matter, when you know that you're worthy enough of doing whatever's on your self-care list that you want to do, when you know that that you matter. That's really what comes down to. And it's not like you're gonna, you might not love yourself right now, and that's okay. But that's what self-love is, a journey. Self-care are just things you do. Self-love is a journey to rediscover and build a deeper loving relationship with yourself. So self-love, aspects, are definitely intertwined with self-care, and I'm really going to break that down today. But just understanding that these two simple words, they're literally just self and love and self and care. It's really just, it's bringing yourself back onto your top of your to-do list. And then so that self-care, self-love is really starting to do things that really you get to reconnect with and build that deeper loving relationship with yourself. So again, they can definitely cross paths, but they're different. So hopefully within this, breaking it down, I can help you out, because these words are thrown around all the time, including myself. So I just wanted to come in today and do self-care 101 with you. So at the end of it, I actually try and take notes if you can, or re-listen to it later. That's cool too. And start writing things down that maybe inspire you, or something you're like, oh, I'd love to do that. So at the end, you have a self-care list. So let's get started. I actually recommend, and here's another difference between self-love and self-care before I move forward. So one of the biggest aspects it's I see people all the time doing a lot. They put themselves first. They do all these things. Even as parents, they're doing a lot of things, but they're not building that relationship with themselves. So these things don't really fill them up as much as they'd like to. Yes, they're doing it, and it's filling up your cup. But when that cup is chipped, or I don't want to use the word broken, because you're not broken, but when you could use a little bit more love around your cup, then that liquid that you put in to fill your cup starts leaking through. And even though you're filling your cup up, and you're like, I'm doing all these things for me, if that love isn't there, it's kind of like it goes in and it leaks out. It goes in and it leaks out. So it's really just doing things to really just connect with yourself. And there is going to be a list that is a part of self-care that really does help build in your self-love as well. So that is very important, because I know a lot of, there's people I know that do a lot of things that it's like, oh, they're taking time for them. Awesome. But then when you talk with them, it's like, oh, they're really feeling unlovable at the same time. So, it's this fun balancing act. So self-care, let's break it down. Self-care, the biggest thing to understand is do what makes you feel good. If it doesn't light you up, it's probably not filling you up. So that's the aspect. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about self-love to make sure your cup isn't leaking. The thing is, though, it's realizing what you love to do. I'm going to list off some examples, but that doesn't mean you have to go out and do it. You got to connect with yourself and do what feels right to you, because you're the one that needs, that care. I do my own things. And I actually discovered this myself, where every day I would take half an hour to an hour to myself and just, either doing my nails or putting a facial mask on in the bathroom. And that is great. But at that moment, that's not what I needed. I actually wanted to reconnect with my husband. Like, I was doing all these things for me and I didn't feel full. And that's usually when you know something's missing, when you're taking time for you, but at the end of it, you're not feeling full, feeling lit up. Then you got to reevaluate. And that's what I want to kind of help you do today, is really build this list that you can come to. And it's breaking self-care into 8 categories. Yes, you heard it, 8. So emotional. It's about working on an emotional level. So there's, doing affirmations, reading books that inspire you. I always have at least 2 or 3 books on the go usually. One's usually an audio now, so I can listen while I'm doing things as well. And it's breathing exercises. And it's like doing one. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading my notes. Sorry. Do one thing today just because it makes you happy. So it's just focusing on your emotional side. It's really just checking in. How do you feel today? It really is just doing a check-in. So emotional. Sometimes we get our schedules, and I'm saying this with love because I've been there and I still find myself there sometimes. Is your schedule so full that you're like, I don't have time to check in emotionally? Then you're probably running from an emotion. I remember in my 20s, I was constantly busy being busy. And I never checked in with myself. In fact, I was a fitness instructor then, and in the dance studio where I taught, there was a yoga class. And I was like, why would anybody lay down and lay there for, I was actually laughing. I laughed because I couldn't imagine quieting myself down for an hour class and then at the end of the class laying there. I had no idea how important that was back then, because I was hiding all these emotions that I was like, my person did not want, did not want to do that, because that would mean I'd have to face the stillness. And in the stillness, you get to hear your emotions and you get to see what's going on. So back then, this is over, we're talking probably about 15 years. I love yoga now. I love yoga and I love meditation. And that is a huge different thing in my life now. But back then, I couldn't understand it. And then I think it was only a few years after that, maybe even just one. And I was like, oh, this is the importance of slowing down and listening. So emotional. Are you slowing down? Are you listening? So another great one is meditation. And you are going to find that some of these things on this list are going to cross over into the other categories. But it's really looking at it. It's, if you know about chakras, it's not the same because it's on our body, but this is more there are different categories, and to break it down so each area of your life can be balanced. I remember, pretty sure it was in April, I talked about the chair, and when areas of your life are off balance, then you have a wobbly chair in your life. And then if we're coming from a life perspective, then your life can feel a little off balance. So even self-care can be off balance when you're not, when you're focused on one aspect and not the other. So that's emotional. Now there's mental. So reading and learning, doing something, going outside your comfort zone or learning a new topic. It could be you wanted to learn. For me, I've always loved gardening, but I haven't gardened in a long time. And so it's really just reading up on gardening books and really educating myself. I'm always reading about different ways to learn. I picked up the guitar this year. I've always wanted to learn how to play. And this January, I stepped out of my comfort zone and I bought a guitar and I'm learning. Is it frustrating? Oh yeah. But is it rewarding at the same time? Yes. Am I as far as along as I want to be? No. But it's really just it's giving that brain a little bit of, I can do the mentalness, and it's just really keeping your brain in focus and just keep going is really great, I find. And it's even just changing up your routine. And the big one for me here is unplugging. So I'm in the world of online business where social media, and even if you're not online, social media is a huge thing. And even before I was an entrepreneur, social media sometimes stresses me out. So I have those days that I unplug. And yes, there's those days I sometimes feel like, oh, I should be on social media. What if I don't post anything? It's like, no, this is time to unplug and really recharge. So if that's something that seems right to you, or even it's just making sure that the phones aren't at the table, or, a couple hours before bed, you don't check your phone, those kinds of things. It's all whatever works for your life. And this is not about stressing you out. It's about recharging, renewing, and just really giving you that energy back in life. So if it stresses you out, maybe check in why. Maybe it's just you're resisting it. And other times it's just like, no, that's not what I want to do. So emotional, mental, and then we have physical. So a big one that we know, moving your body, feeding it delicious, amazing food. And then obviously there's the, washing your hair, showering, the grooming, all those fun aspects, going to the spa, like any of those things that focus on the physical body, dry brushing, those kinds of things. And then there's pleasure, where it's, when was the last time you went on a holiday? Or, even just a staycation, or things that you just put things down. As a parent, for me, I find it difficult. The other weekend, my husband took the kids to the grandparents so I could start really investing more time in writing my book and just doing some work, and then at the same time recharging my batteries. And partly maybe procrastination, but the other part was like, but I have all this cleaning that needs to be done. I could be organizing the house. I have all this. I have the house to myself. I can do all this. So it's realizing that I booked that time to, we made that weekend happen so I could write my book, focus on my passions, and recharge my batteries. So the only thing I did was the dishes in the kitchen. So I actually managed. But sometimes, we have that struggle within us. So, and another one is daydreaming. When was the last time you just sat around and daydreamed for 15, 20 minutes, or looked up at the clouds? You remember as a kid, you looked at the shapes, imagining what they might be, or the stars. So it's those kinds of things. Oh, and before I forget, I actually looked at my notes, and it's even for physical, it's napping. So getting enough sleep, that's a big one for physical, and even it can fall into mental as well, and emotional. Sleep is just important in general. So back to pleasure. It's just doing something you love. I would have a pleasure list. I love being in nature. So I can actually combine a couple, a walking meditation, or just really, it's just a walking meditation is a really good one for me for pleasure, and it's mental as well, and spiritual. And so other pleasure, it's just having that list. What do you really love to do? That's just you. Maybe it's painting, sewing, any kind of crafting. Maybe it's photography, or whatever it may be, things that just bring you so much joy that don't fit on any of these other lists either. It doesn't have to be for anything but for you. Emotional, that can get a little trying at times, because you have to listen to your emotions. And sometimes like I said, we have to hide. So it's just the pleasure. Is there a place you love visiting? I have my happy place I love going to in the summer. And it's those little things. So that's pleasure. And then there's sensory, where it's, all our senses. So it's avoiding bright lights, crowds. So I love to slow down. So it's just really just being aware. And a great one is essential oils. Even as I'm recording this video, I have essential oils going on. I wear them. And it's just really just getting all your senses in. Or slowing down. I know for me, kids and having meals that are quiet can be challenging. So maybe sometimes schedule a time where you just have a meal on your own or with your significant other, and just, or have it where your kids, maybe they're old enough. We sometimes play, you know, it comes from my kids' school where it's ghost town. So if the kids are like screaming at each other at the dinner table, we go 1, 2, 3, and my daughter will yell ghost town. So then we have quietness for like 2 minutes. And it just gives you that moment to hear, to taste the food, to be present. So just getting all your senses in play, your hearing, your taste, your scent, and seeing it, and just being aware of it. And then there's social. And I've already talked a little bit about this when I was doing all these physical things, pampering even, masks and stuff like that. And what I really need was social. And this is a big one that people kind of forget about. We think self-care is only for us. Like it has to be like something we're just doing by ourselves. It doesn't have to be. It could be getting out with your friends, connecting with your partner, especially if you're a parent and you're in the thick of it like me, and you're constantly on go with the kids. Is taking a step back. Like my husband and I, we have a date night every Friday. Now we don't usually leave the house. Now and then if we can get a babysitter, we will. Or we'll move, like we'll have an extra date night. But every Friday night we sit and connect together. And it's just, we don't worry about what our house is in. It doesn't matter. We just, like, the kids are in bed and now it's time for us, no matter what. Unless like he went away last Friday, then we moved it a day ahead. But you know, you got to have flexibility, and at the same time, knowing that, you know, certain things really do matter. So social, it could be girls' night, and just making plans with other family members too. Things can get so busy that we kind of forget sometimes to do that. And then the big one, the one that I say is also part of self-love, that really, or at least really can help you in the self-love journey, is the spiritual aspect. So it's meditating, random acts of kindness. When we give to others, amazing things happen with ourselves. We feel joy, we feel amazing. And then it's a ripple effect. That person feels good. And so we don't just feel good. You don't really do it for you, but at the same time, you benefit so much. And then it's a ripple effect. It's just amazing wave of love that you get to send out to the world. And that itself, when you do something for somebody else, that love gets returned, and it really can build that self-love relationship with you more. So, and then it's like donating to charity if you have a special charity in mind, opening the door for somebody. So again, random acts of kindness, really. And then praying, and it could be just even to the universe, depending on what your religion is. I don't really touch base on that here, but it's just really connecting, or just praying and letting the universe kind of help you out. Journaling is a really great one to connect with yourself. And this is also really good for emotion and mental as well. When you're having an emotional day, you can write it out. And volunteering and reading. Those are all great things to help you with. And that's so a lot of the things that I help build my self-love practice with. And actually with my self-love practice, I make sure that I'm sending love to my body, my mind, and my spirit. That's really how I've created my self-love practice, is like, yes, rebuilding or building a really loving connection with myself, and at the same time making sure that all my whole being is being taken care of in a loving way. So how do you make this happen? I know I said I was going to break it down in the simple terms. Now that was a lot of information to digest. I literally would have all those areas either across a piece of paper or down, and I would just jot some of the things that you're like, I would love to do this. And mental, like when I say try something new, you could be trying all these new things like rock climbing, and yes, it's physical, but it could be mental too, because you're breaking through barriers of maybe you're afraid of heights and different things. So if creating a huge list stresses you out, don't do it. My husband hates lists and I love them. Just making sure that you understand that self-care has many working parts. If you're just like, I'm taking time for me, and you just, whatever you do, you're just like, you're not mindful of it, you might find that you're still off balance, even though you're like, I'm spending all this time on me. Why isn't anything feeling good? And that could be why you're missing a component that is really important. It could be social or spiritual. And so how do you do this all? I highly recommend having a list. And I know I just said if you don't like lists, but you don't have to break it down so much. But have a list of things that you love to do. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, you know that something's off kilter, and look at your list and just see what feels right to you. Like, what is popping out for you right in that moment? What do you feel needs to be done right in that moment? And the other awesome thing to do is with having this list is that some things can be 5 minutes. Some might take an hour or a week if you want to go on a holiday, those kinds of things. So you can structure it to what you have time for. Maybe you only have 5 minutes and you're stressed out. You're like, I need to do something. Going back to the weekend that I had to myself, I got stressed out. I had no kids home. I was all excited. I knew what I wanted to do. I had a working plan. I don't like to have stuff too structured anymore. I'm trying to get out of the controllingness. And I was getting overwhelmed. It was, the second day, and I'm like, I have all these things I want to do. And it was a beautiful day outside. And I was like, I will kick, and they were calling for rain the next day. And I was like, I'm going to kick myself if I don't go outside and enjoy it. And I was like, but I have all these other things that I need to do. The needing was in my head, though, by the way, because it can get done when it gets done. So I decided to go for a walk. I'm like, it doesn't have to be long, but I want to do it. I know I'll feel good. And I resisted it for a while. I get out there and it's gorgeous. And I was like, why do I resist the things that make me feel good? Do you do the same? We get caught up in our to-do lists. We're like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to do yoga. I have no time to go outside and go for a walk. But in doing those things, at least for me, those are things that really light me up, give me more energy. When I do those things first, I have so much more energy to give to you, to give to the world, to my kids, my husband, to myself, when I do those things that really light me up. That walk. I think I went for like a 15-minute walk. And in it, I was just like about releasing the stress. It's like, it's okay. Whatever gets done, gets done. I was just like, okay, whatever I need to get done next, I'll know and I'll just do it. And actually, I was just out. I'm like, maybe I should go for a longer walk or things like that. And it's just doing, what really lights you up. And then it's overcoming that resistance. So now doing that and realizing that I was resisting something I love and that makes me feel good. I now incorporated that where I'm like procrastinating. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just sit down and do some work first. It's like, no, I'm going to meditate and do some yoga. And even today while I'm recording videos, I'm going to go out for a walk today because it's gorgeous again. And that will give me more energy to give out into this world. And it's really cool when that happens. So make that list so you can fall back on it when things are stressful. When you have, until it becomes second nature. Because I actually have it wrote down on a piece of paper in my day timer. Body, mind, body, spirit. And I actually wrote down there's 3 points. And I think under spirit has 4. And it's just things that I want to try and incorporate every day. So my mind, body, and spirit are being nourished. And I do it with a place of love, knowing that it is something that will help me lovingly, just give more love to my kids, my husband, and the world. So it's just really coming from a place of love instead of I have to do this. It's like, this will help me help others. And it's a really wonderful thing. So even if you just want to break it down to mind, body, spirit, or soul, whatever you want to call it, and just break it down into those sections, it's even more simple. And The other one is I highly recommend scheduling self-care in. Does it need to be scheduled in every single day? Not necessarily, unless you find that you're not making time for you at all. It could be that you give yourself 15, 20 minutes before bed, or if you find yourself too tired, then maybe you do it in the morning, or I know people that take lunch in their car and have breaks there so they can just be by themselves and fill themselves up at lunch hour. I used to do that sometimes when I was having a rough day, or even at break time, things like that. And it's scheduling it in. You're like, but I'm busy already. I have too much to do. Again, when you do these things, you'll have more energy to give. And I just highly, highly encourage you to look at your day. Are you flipping through Facebook often or any other social media? I found myself when I would get bored or I was just waiting, or like you say, you're even waiting for a friend and then you pick up your phone because it's there, and I browse. I still to this day, I'm more aware of it now, and usually I stop myself, but not always. But I'll just pick it up. I'm like, oh, I've already just checked out Facebook, or I've done this and that. And I'm just like, what else on my phone could I look at? But it's having those tools behind, like have that list. What can you do for 5 minutes? And that's why I have so many books on the go. When I'm waiting for a friend or an appointment, I actually have a book. So if somebody's running late or no one shows up, like I do a self-love meetup group here, and the one week no one actually showed up, and actually I was just like, oh, this is me time. I get to read. But if I didn't have that book with me, I would have been not excited, or like I would have been frustrated that no one showed up and that I took that time to leave the house. But instead I saw it as, this is time that I get to read. And actually it was really cool because I was in that space of connecting. I actually ran into people that I've met before, or at least one person, and then I met new people. And it really, when you open yourself up to love, even if somebody doesn't show up, then you have more love come in. And it's really, really cool when that happens. So it's allowing that to happen. And so that's why I do reading. And if you like to journal on the go, or you can have notes on your phone. I know I said, it's more about social media. Don't look. I also use the app. I think it's actually Facebook's app. And you actually get to put it, I think it's under the settings. I should have checked. And you get to actually they can let you know how long you've been on Facebook. So I actually have it for an hour. Because here's the thing, I don't really want to spend more time than an hour on Facebook. Now there are days where I'm listening to people's videos and connecting, because there's a lot of awesomeness on there. But I want to know how often am I, like on those days, I'm like, okay, when I pass the hour, I pass the hour. But on the days that I just catch myself browsing a lot, those are days that I'm like, okay, I think I've had enough time on social media. There's so much awesomeness on social media. And it's just being aware of your time. And so scheduling it in, and where are you catching time? And it could just be like lost time. Just it's looking at where your time is. You could use it slightly better, maybe. Use of your time. So just looking at it, and again scheduling it in, and just having that list of things that light you up. And it can be constantly growing and changing. Maybe you try rock climbing and you're like, oh, that was not for me. Stroke it off your list, move on, and just keep going. It's a working list. And just know that you matter. So it's just really taking that time for you and building that self-loving relationship with yourself as well, like building a deeper loving relationship. So I hope that helps. It's kind of long today. It was full of information, and I just hope that something in here you can take away, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I would just love to know what your biggest takeaway was, and I'm here for you, and I hope you have the most beautiful, beautiful day.